Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. Welcome to our worship service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. I'm Janet Bush. I'm the congregation's minister. Thank you to everyone in the Great Hall and everyone who is going downstairs to make sandwiches for Cathedral in the Night for the meal that they do this afternoon. That's why you see people leaving. Thank you to everyone in the Great Hall and downstairs and at home who is helping this morning. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we're guided and inspired by its values and principles. Those values and principles move us to remember that in Northampton we inhabit unceded land of the Tecumseh and Nipmuc peoples, and our values and principles remind us to acknowledge our responsibility to face the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, even as we celebrate and affirm the legacies that inspire us. We are here to celebrate and support one another, to renew ourselves with hope and gratitude and new resolve. And it's wonderful to see you all, both in the Great Hall and 50 screens online. And we have two people to welcome this morning. First, we welcome Ellen Cogan, who is here for her first Sunday with us as our new music director. And we're so happy to have her. Over 20 years ago, for several years, when the congregation had 3 services, Ellen was the pianist for the 4 p.m. service. Now I need to say it's okay to be recorded. So she has a head start in knowing many of you, and we're very glad that she's decided to join us. And our guest preacher this morning is my colleague, the Reverend Julie Ann Silberman-Burn. Julie Ann is a lifelong UU who has served as a parish minister, as a religious educator, and as a chaplain. And she's recently joined the team at the New England Hospice, serving Western Massachusetts. She's also quarter-time assistant minister at the Unitarian Universal Society of Greater Springfield. And she and her husband, Ken, who's with us today, welcome Ken, also live in what they call their forever home, a cabin a little west of here in Huntington, up in the hills. So welcome Julianne and welcome Ken. If you are new or if you're returning after a time away, we welcome you as well. If you're in the hall, you can fill out one of these blue cards, and after the service you can stick it in the offering plate over there, and that will just allow us to put you on our email contact list so that you get our news. There is also a link in the chat for those of you online. Those of you who are here in person, thank you for wearing your masks. And we are still not singing in the service. We're going to experiment for the first time on Christmas Eve, allowing people to sing very softly, not full voice. But if you want to hum this morning, you're certainly welcome to do that. We just want to be as safe as we can. And if you're online, we ask you to keep your videos off except during the greeting, because that helps the technology work more smoothly. And there will be a Zoom social hour today. And now we'll begin our service. Don't leave your broken heart at the door. Bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. It has high standards, and the world needs vision. Bring them with you, and bring your loving, your passion, your courage, your conviction, and your joy. And now I invite everyone to rise in body or spirit for our chalice lighting. Again, we're asking those of you in the Great Hall to refrain from singing, but I hope you will hum gently, and those of you online, please sing aloud for everyone else. And Lori's going to find the words. All right, a lot of you know this one. We light our chalice as a beacon of hope, a sign of our quest for truth and meaning. We light our chalice as a beacon of hope in celebration of the life we share together.
This is a reading titled Opening to Joy. It's easy to get tricked, taken for a ride, convinced that joy is a possession, something to be opened just by us, as if it's a holiday special delivery waiting for us to unwrap it and keep forever. And who can blame us with pain being so prevalent? Sadness seems to stay. Why can't joy? But maybe it's elusive for a reason. Maybe it's slippery in order to help us. Understand that it was put there to fly, or better yet, to be flown, to be passed, not possessed, to be spread between you and me, between the ones who received it as a gift and the ones that have been looking for its treasure for a very long time. Maybe it's a beautiful and elegant contagion over which we have more control than we think, if only we share it, if only we notice that joy is not ours to keep, but ours to give. Maybe joy opens us as much as we open to it. Maybe that's the way light leaks into our world. And now we will sing hymn number 368, 2 verses. Now let us sing.
And now it's time for us to greet one another. If you're in the Great Hall, please turn and wave to one another and to the people online. If you're on Zoom, you are invited to turn on your videos, wave, and say hello in the chat. Anyone online or here in person who is new or newish and would like to, please say hello and tell us where you're from. No, not yet.
They are, we can't see them. Hang on a second.
Should come up.
It won't talk to us. No, it's a silent audience. Good morning from the Libby Lanois. Okay, good morning, Libby Lanois. We're subdued this morning.
It has been good to see everyone. Please remember to turn off your videos. Our generosity makes everything we do possible, and it helps us support organizations and movements in the greater community. Half of the proceeds of each week's offering support the Society's operating budget, and half are shared outside our walls. You can mail in a check or donate online. The link is in the chat. You may also put cash or a check in the offering plate here on the chancel after the service. Thank you. And now we'll listen to the offertory music.
Our meditation is a version of a loving kindness meditation from Thich Nhat Hanh. May we be peaceful, happy, and light in body and mind. May we be safe and free from accidents. May we be free from anger and unwholesome states of mind, from fear and from worry. May we not fall into the state of indifference or be caught in the extremes of attachment or aversion. May we know how to look at ourselves with eyes of understanding and love. May we be able to recognize and touch the seeds of joy and happiness in ourselves. May we learn how to nourish ourselves with joy every day. And may we be able to live fresh, solid, and free. We'll take time together in silence.
There's a little one in the back of the Great Hall offering us the sounds of sunshine. So it's perfect to lead into this reading, which is called The Parables of Sunshine by Margaret Delaney. It's an excerpt from her book. She says, "I like to imagine that I have a true teacher, a figure much like the mythic Merlin, whose business it is to gently guide me toward the truth. My fantasy involves a mentor, master, guide, compassionate being who walks beside me, neither of us seeming to set the pace, neither forcing nor slowing the speed, moving along at a mindful stroll and noticing things together. There are times when I point things out to the teacher, and times when I sense the teacher directing my attention as we move through what Dylan Thomas refers to in his poem in October as the parables of sunlight, the instruction of our days spent together on planet Earth. The teacher delights in pointing out examples of the easy harmony of the natural world, a flock of birds flying in unison, a phenomenon that has never been satisfactorily explained by science. Is a favored sight, as this sight most often occurs while driving. The teacher and I can be quite a menace to motor safety as we weave along in jaw-dropping wonder, while scores of birds moving as one lift, dart, alight flawlessly in sync. We marvel, clapping and laughing like a couple of 2-year-olds. Animals offer wonderful examples of how to listen. The teacher loves to instruct through their behavior and delights in sending me special sightings from the faunal kingdom. My head will suddenly wrench around, allowing me to catch some rare sight of owls at midday, groundhog picnics, wild turkey parades. Once while driving down the road where I live, my head spun around to peer down along a driveway. And there, as if to illustrate cross-species communication, was a cat and a deer in silhouette. The cat with nose lifted as the deer with bended head gently touched the nose of the cat with her own in silent dialogue. My head has craned and spotted all of my life. I once went on an African safari and managed to outspot our Kenyan guide. I have on several occasions been rewarded with sightings in answer to specific requests. Once, while driving home late one night with my husband, Matt, I said, "I don't believe I've ever seen a kestrel." The next morning, very early, Matt and I were awakened by a tapping on our second-story window. We sat up in our bed to look at the source of the racket. A kestrel, a small, bright-eyed hawk, perched just outside, pecked on the glass, stopped to stare at us, pecked some more, stared again, and flew away. I could almost feel the teachers laughing, shaking our bed. Of course, animal sightings must be simple wishes to grant. It's those others that are so tricky, the ones that require the tangle of human free will. And now we will sing hymn number 352, Find a Stillness.
Stillness, let the stillness
I should probably begin by telling you a little bit about myself. I grew up as a Unitarian Universalist in a very secular humanist, small congregation in Trenton, New Jersey. I was actively involved in youth and young adult leadership and spent 9 months working for the UUA doing youth programming. It was during that time at the UUA that I first experienced my call to ministry. Remember, I came from a UU humanist congregation, so having a call was bizarre and unexpected at the very best. A bit freaky and far-fetched in my own mind. I was 20 years old and had gone to one of our UU congregations in New Orleans to talk about the importance of youth ministry. As I stood in that pulpit, I knew for the first time that my life would be spent as a UU minister. 4 years later, I began my theological education at Earlham School of Religion in Richmond, Indiana. I continue to find myself a better Unitarian Universalist and minister for the time I spent studying in the midst of the only Quaker theological seminary and the most sensitive spiritual community I have been fortunate enough to be part of. Because I had to learn how to explain my theology, my Universalist and Unitarian theology and spirituality in ways people who were completely unfamiliar with UUism could grasp. I learned among Quakers to remain open to what might be. My Quaker friends would call it God or even Jesus. I tend to call it the holy, the sacred, or simply spirit. I believe in powers far greater than myself now, but I still maintain a healthy skepticism. In 2015, having been a UU parish minister for more than 20 years, I found myself answering a new call, a very different call. The call I heard was to become a hospice chaplain. After 4 years as a hospice chaplain in Pennsylvania and loving the work and ministry I could do there, I heard a call to live more joyfully and answer a lifelong call. Some might call it a dream. My husband and I quit our jobs and took a giant leap of faith. My parents had for many years vacationed at the home of friends up the road here in Huntington. When I was born, one friend sold my parents' land, and another, actually a longtime member of this church, who died more than 20 years ago now, John Eric and his wife Nancy, my mother's best friend, lent my parents the money to build a small cabin in the woods up in Huntington. Ever since childhood, I had wanted to live year-round in that tiny cabin. Just over 2 years ago, my husband and I left our lives in Pennsylvania and moved to that tiny summer cabin in Huntington. I was able to get hired as a chaplain at a hospital in Springfield, and a year later was offered a quarter-time position as the assistant minister at the UU Church in Springfield. It was good, but not quite my dream. Last month, I was hired for my dream job as a hospice chaplain with a small family-owned nonprofit hospice company working here in the area. I have been finding joy every day since. Every day for the last 2 years, I have thanked the universe for introducing my mother in 1934 to the woman who became and remained one of her best friends for the next 64 years. You see, without the joy my mother and her best friend found in their friendship, I would never have had this home and this life to dream about. I find joy in the simplicity of my life in the woods. I find joy in sitting with the dying and their families as they engage in the beautiful and precious rituals of love and memory, of letting go of this life and in hope of the unknown. I have helped people over and over explore what it means to grieve the loss of someone dear to us in death. Not only have I helped others to move through the grief of loss, but I have made my own journey more times than I care to think about, through the journey of losing and grieving beloved. What we often forget, though, is there are a lot of different kinds of loss. Sure, we can lose someone to death, but also to a move or a breakup, to an argument that forces us into estrangement. We feel loss when we change jobs by choice or by circumstance. We feel loss at the end of vacation when we return to our normal routines. And we can feel loss when we go on vacation and move away from the safety and security of routines. Loss is complicated, layered, and deeply individualized and unique. When we have experienced loss and are grieving, it is a challenging time, a time in which we often feel wounded, broken, fragile, and incredibly tender. I have experienced a number of significant losses, and I guarantee that fragility and woundedness is a part of the process. I have felt my own losses deeply, and at the same time, I have felt the need to heal, so that I can move on with my life, but even more, so that I can manage to keep up with my life. I also find a deep joy in remembering my beloveds and all that they taught me, and finding ways I can be a better human by giving back in some way that they might have also done. Right now, I know many who are wounded and hurting because they have been so isolated for months and months on end. And when they thought there might be hope, it felt as if things went topsy-turvy again. So they are fearful of how long it may continue. It is particularly bad for those who are by nature extroverted and social beings. I luck out by being an introvert. I am aware of others who have had plans changed, lives changed, who are living in a vast pool of instability and uncertainty, and that causes such a lack of clarity. They are feeling as if their world has been turned upside down. Whatever it is that you are feeling today, and I pray that there are some, even many of you, who are feeling solid and secure in our midst as well. When we do feel this unsettled feeling, we must find ways to move forward, to begin to heal. Even in good times, we need tools to make the times and our lives even better. One of the best ways I know to begin to heal, to open the possibility of improvement in my life, is to stop thinking I know things, anything at all. I try to return to what Buddhists might call beginner's mind. Others might call it an open book or an emptying of all that has come before. It is a time when all our senses and all our pre-established data is released. For me, it is child's mind, or simply openness to all that is around me. Too often we let the past predict what we'll experience in the future. But when we enter child's mind, we allow ourselves to fully embrace every aspect of the world around us with wonder and joy. I also asked myself a question that became central to a group of friends as a challenge to self-care. What am I doing for joy? What am I doing for fun? Have you ever noticed that small children can crouch down and watch a tiny aspect of nature for hours on end? Maybe it's a blade of grass or an ant or even a ladybug. Just a small aspect of nature. Adults have a hard time being that still, that patient. But have you noticed that children find joy in gathering elements of the world around them? Have you ever known a child who had a treasure box filled with pebbles and sticks and flowers and grass, maybe a salamander or two? I have. Have you ever noticed that children don't need a lot of things to find joy and wonder? They don't even need money most of the time. This wonder is a gift of childhood, but as we need not let it go completely, we have Advent. Today is the third Sunday of Advent in the Christian tradition. Advent is a time of waiting with wonder and anticipation. Advent calendars are a perfect image for the wonder of Advent. 24 separate little doors to look behind and open. Behind each door, a surprise, a little bit of unexpected wonder. When my goddaughters were little, I used to make them Advent stockings. I realized when the oldest girl was just a couple of years old that my Christmas gift had gotten lost in all the chaos of Christmas morning. She had no idea what I had gotten or how much I cared or had put into that gift and made it hopefully special, but it wasn't. It was just one more in the giant pile she got on Christmas morning. It made me sad. I wanted my goddaughters to know I loved them and thought about them. I also wanted them to know that Christmas in the holiday season was more than just one big, giant orgy of unwrapping presents and piling them up in anticipation of the next, with no understanding of where they came from or what it meant. I made the decision to create Advent stockings for each of the girls. I would spend time over the entire year seeking and finding small gifts that cost under $1 each. I would then wrap and number each gift and place it inside of a stocking, so each of my, at first 2, and later 4 goddaughters would have one gift to open every day of Advent. There was something special and magical about this for all of us. For me, it was an intentional embodiment of my love for my goddaughters throughout the year, and in the wrapping and the numbering. For their parents, it was a recognition of how seriously I took the commitment I had made to be a godparent. And for the girls, it was a positive reminder of someone who lived far away and they didn't see nearly often enough. For all of us, it was the excitement of each new item. The girls would call me every night to tell me what they had gotten. I think for all of us, this year more than ever, Advent and its message of anticipation and wonder, waiting and hoping, is exactly what we have needed. We need to let go of what we expect, let go of what has happened in the past, and open our hearts and minds to the wonder of possibilities as yet unknown, and welcome it with wonder and joy for the surprise it can be if we let go of our preconceived notions and expectations and allow ourselves the opportunity to find joy wherever it may be lying in wait. We have been going through and continue to navigate a strange time, a time that has raised fear, depression, and grief for many of us. As we honor the remainder of this season of Advent, this time of waiting, let us take time to pause, to stop, to quiet our spirits and our bodies, to allow ourselves to welcome with hope what may come. May we find joy in the rising of the sun and in its setting, and the rising of the moon. May we find joy in the beauty of all our natural world. May we find joy in the chatter of the winter birds, a fierce winter wind blowing, a quiet night by the fire, the reality that some of our needs are met by our church community. May we find joy in engaging our own child's mind in this season of waiting and wonder. May we each, in our own way, welcome the wonder of expectation, the joy of the unexpected, and the healing of simplicity. Amen, and blessed be. And please join together in hymn number 327, Joy Thou Goddess. As we leave today, may you each pause to find the little things, the tiniest joys, the sounds, perhaps the sunlight of a baby's cry, the tinkle that makes in the air. And let it take us to places where only we know. Let us pause to hear the voice of the teacher, whoever it may be for us. And may you go in peace and unrest to love and to serve as best you are able, being bringers of joy and finders of joy. Amen.
Trouble today. With anyone, smile on your face. I live only to see. It's enough for me. It's enough for me. Oh, heavenly day.
Good morning, everybody on Zoom.